You're not broken. You're just burnt out. Have you ever sat down to study and instantly felt tired? Not tired like you didn't get enough sleep. Tired like your soul just gave up the moment you opened the textbook. You sharpened your pencil, you got your water, you opened your notes, and then you just stared. And you thought, I don't even know where to start. So you scrolled. You cleaned your desk. You watched other people study on YouTube. People who somehow make revision look like self-care. And by the end of it, you felt worse. Guilty, behind, broken. But you're not broken. You're just burnt out by the lie that studying is supposed to be a war. You're not lazy. You're overwhelmed. You don't need more motivation. You need a better way. Because the truth is, there is a way to study that feels so smooth, so natural, so fast. It almost feels like cheating, but it isn't. And once you learn it, you'll never study the same way again. Part 1. The way we were taught to study is wrong. You know what's strange? Nobody really teaches you how to study. They just expect you to know. So you copy what everyone else is doing. You highlight everything. You reread chapters. You underline stuff in 5 different colors and convince yourself it's productive. But deep down, you know it's not working. You reread the same paragraph 5 times and still forget what it said. You cram for hours and feel like nothing sticks. And when you finally write the test, your mind just blanks, and then the worst part creeps in, the shame. You think, maybe I'm just not as smart as everyone else. You don't say it out loud, but you carry it. That quiet fear that no one else seems to be struggling like you are. But here's the truth. Studying isn't about grinding until your brain collapses. It's not about how many hours you put in. It's about how you use your brain. And the techniques we were told to use, they're outdated, passive, exhausting. So no, you're not the problem. The method is. Part 2. Learning is remembering, and remembering is retrieval. Imagine this. You're at the gym, but instead of lifting weights, you just stare at them, maybe touch them a little, maybe read about them. Would you expect to get stronger? Of course not. But that's what most people do with studying. They stare at the information, they reread it, they highlight it, but they never lift the weight, which in this case means retrieving the information without looking. This is called active recall, and it's the #1 technique that can make studying feel like a superpower. Instead of reading your notes 5 times, close the book and ask yourself, what do I actually remember? Even if you recall one thing, that effort strengthens your memory like a muscle. It's painful, it's frustrating, but it works. And it's not about perfection. It's about pulling that knowledge out of your brain again and again until your brain knows you mean it. Because your brain doesn't learn when it's comfortable. It learns when it struggles and succeeds. And the first time you try it, you'll feel dumb. But the third time, you'll feel powerful. Almost like you're cheating, but you're not. You're just using your brain the way it was meant to be used. Part 3. Space, forget, repeat. Let me tell you something that might sound weird. Forgetting is part of learning. That sounds wrong, right? We're taught to fear forgetting, to beat ourselves up every time we lose track of a detail. But science says otherwise. Your brain needs time to forget a little, so that when you come back to the material and review it again, the memory gets stronger. It's called the spacing effect. When you cram everything in one night, you're flooding your brain. But when you space it out, study for 25 minutes today, then review it again tomorrow, then next week, you're creating long-term memory. You don't need to study harder. You just need to study smarter. Give yourself breaks. Let yourself breathe. Your brain is not a sponge. It's a garden. You plant, you water, you wait, you repeat. The moment you stop beating yourself up for forgetting is the moment you start learning faster than ever before. And that feels like cheating, but it's not. It's patience, and it works. Part 4. Switch it up even when it feels wrong. You know what makes studying feel slow? Doing the same thing over and over for hours. It feels like you're making progress, but your brain is on autopilot. That's where interleaving comes in. Instead of studying just math for 3 hours straight, you switch between subjects. Math, science, history, then back to math. It feels less comfortable, but it actually helps you remember more. Why? Because switching forces your brain to re-engage, to reset, to stop coasting. And even though it feels like you're getting worse, you're actually getting better. Here's the emotional part. Most of us are addicted to the feeling of flow when studying. That false sense of mastery when we do something easy for a long time. But real growth, it happens in discomfort. So next time your brain says, just stick to this one thing, try switching. It might feel like you're messing up your rhythm, but you're not. You're building something stronger. Part 5, teach it. Even if it's to an empty room. There's this weird moment that happens when you try to explain a concept out loud. You think you know it, then you try to say it, and suddenly your mind goes blank. That's because explaining something is the ultimate test of understanding. And that's also why teaching is one of the fastest ways to learn. It doesn't matter if you teach your dog, your plant, or the ceiling fan. When you force yourself to put knowledge into words, you find the gaps. You simplify. You remember. So here's a trick. After studying something, close your book and teach it out loud like you're giving a TED Talk. Be dramatic. Use hand gestures. Be ridiculous. It feels silly. It feels awkward. It also works because you're not just reading anymore. You're owning the knowledge. And even if no one hears you, your brain does. Part 6. The part no one talks about. Let's stop pretending studying is just about strategy. Sometimes the real reason you can't study is because you're hurting. Maybe you're dealing with anxiety. Maybe you're comparing yourself to others. Maybe you've tied your self-worth to your grades so tightly you forgot you're a human being first. No one talks about the emotional weight of learning. That feeling when you study for hours and still feel stupid. That quiet shame when your friends talk about how much they've done and you haven't even started. That guilt when you rest because you feel like you don't deserve it. This is the shadow side of education, and it's so real. You scroll through motivational posts, you try study with me videos, you light a candle and open your notes, and still you feel like giving up. But here's what you need to hear. Your worth is not tied to your productivity. You are not behind, you are not broken. You are not less. You're just tired. You're just human. And sometimes all you need is to forgive yourself for not being perfect. That's when you begin again. Not from shame, but from kindness. And you'll be amazed at how much faster your brain learns when it's no longer afraid of failure. Studying doesn't have to be a punishment. It can be a gift. Part 7. Your new study flow that actually works. Let's bring this all together. What would it look like if you studied in a way that actually worked? Here's a simple system. Start with a 5-minute review of yesterday's notes, using active recall. Close your notes and write down what you remember. Choose one topic and study for 25 minutes, using a Pomodoro timer. Use retrieval methods, flashcards, self-quizzing, teaching aloud. Take a 5-minute break. Stretch, breathe, hydrate. Switch topics. Don't get stuck in one subject. Interleave. End your session by teaching someone or something what you learned. Repeat this 2 to 3 times a day. Not 8 hours, just 90 minutes of focused, intentional study. You'll retain more, you'll feel lighter, and most importantly, you'll start to believe that maybe, just maybe, you're smarter than you thought. It's not cheating, it's healing. Studying ever made you feel stupid? You're not alone. If you've ever cried quietly at your desk because the words just wouldn't stick, you're not weak. If you've ever felt like giving up, not because you didn't want to succeed, but because it all felt so pointless, you're not lazy. You were just never shown how to study in a way that honors how your brain truly works. And now you have that. No, it's not a magic pill. It's not a cheat code. It's a gentle, powerful shift in the way you approach learning. And the next time someone asks how you got so good, so fast, just smile. Because now you know it's not cheating, it's healing.